Strait of Hormuz, 5:18 a.m., first light. Dawn breaking over the Persian Gulf, low sun painting the water gold and amber, calm seas, clear visibility, USS Porter, Arleigh Burke class guided missile destroyer, leading a 3-ship task group through the narrowest choke point on Earth. Standard transit operation, commercial tankers nearby, international shipping continuing as it had for decades, 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. 21% of global petroleum trade passes through these waters every single day. 35 oil tankers, 1/5 of the world's liquefied natural gas, trillions of dollars in annual commerce. This isn't just a shipping lane, it's the economic artery of the global energy market. Iran controls the northern coastline, has threatened for years to close the strait, stop all shipping, strangle the world economy, force political concessions, always threats, never action. Until 5:18 a.m. on this morning. Commander Michael Stevens stood on Porter's Bridge. 3 decades of naval service, 5th deployment to the Persian Gulf. He'd transited the strait hundreds of times. Then the radar picture changed. Bridge, CIC, multiple small contacts emerging from Iranian territorial waters. Count 15. No, 24. High speed, heading directly for shipping lanes. Commander Stevens moved to the tactical display. Small icons multiplying across the screen. All moving fast, all on intercept courses. Classification: Fast Attack Craft Commander. Profile matches Iranian Revolutionary Guard Naval Forces. Speed 35 knots. Tight formation. No radio contact. No course alterations. This wasn't routine patrol activity. Iranian boats operated in the strait regularly, but they maintained distance, responded to bridge-to-bridge communications, followed maritime protocols. These boats were doing none of that. General quarters, all hands to battle stations, alert 5th Fleet, notify commercial traffic to maintain course and speed. We'll handle this. Throughout Porter and her escort ships, USS Nitsa and USS Laboon, alarms sounded. Sailors sprinted to combat stations, weapon systems activated. Defensive sensors went to maximum readiness. On the water ahead, Iranian fast attack craft were converging on the shipping lanes, not targeting the American warships directly, targeting the space between commercial vessels, the narrow channels where tankers had to transit. Their objective wasn't to sink ships, it was to create chaos, force tankers to stop, block passage, close the strait through presence and intimidation. From their command center in Bandar Abbas, Iranian Revolutionary Guard naval commanders watched the operation unfold through data feeds. 48 fast attack boats deployed, coordinated insertion into multiple points across the shipping lane, aggressive maneuvering designed to intimidate commercial traffic. They believed speed and numbers would succeed where missiles and threats had failed, create enough confusion that tankers would halt. Enough intimidation that shipping companies would refuse to transit. Enough disruption that the world would see Iran could close the strait whenever they chose. They believed the narrow waters favored them. What they didn't realize was that the United States Navy had planned for exactly this scenario, trained for it, positioned assets specifically to counter it. And the response had been pre-authorized at the highest levels of command. When Iranian fast boats threatened freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, American forces were authorized to take immediate action, not ask permission, not wait for orders, act. What happened over the next 29 minutes would demonstrate that closing the Strait of Hormuz wasn't a tactical option Iran actually possessed. It was a fantasy that evaporated the moment they tried to make it real. The strategic choke point. Understanding what happened requires understanding why the Strait of Hormuz matters. This isn't about oil companies' profits. This is about global economic stability. Energy security for billions of people. The difference between functioning economies and humanitarian catastrophe. Every day, 35 oil tankers pass through the strait, each carrying 2 million barrels of crude oil. That's 21 million barrels daily. If the strait closed, global oil markets would experience immediate crisis. Prices would spike. Energy-dependent economies would face recession. Developing nations would see fuel costs become unaffordable. Liquefied natural gas flows through here, too. 31% of all maritime LNG trade. Countries throughout Asia depend on this gas for electricity generation. Hospitals, schools, essential services. Close the strait, and you're not just disrupting commerce. You're threatening the basic functioning of modern civilization. Iran has understood this leverage for decades, used it as diplomatic weapon, threatened closure during tensions with the West, implied they could hold the world economy hostage. But threats are only credible if you can execute them. And executing closure requires either destroying all shipping, which would trigger immediate military response, or blocking passage through presence, which requires controlling the water space physically. That second option is what Iran attempted at 5:18 a.m. Fast attack boats don't need to sink tankers, just need to position themselves where tankers can't safely navigate. Create enough uncertainty that commercial captains decide transit is too dangerous. Once tankers stop, the strait is effectively closed. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard naval forces had 48 fast attack craft available for the operation. Small boats, 18 to 23 meters long, armed with heavy machine guns, short-range missiles, torpedoes, fast, maneuverable, numerous. They'd practiced this operation repeatedly, coordinated swarm tactics, rapid deployment from hidden coastal positions, aggressive maneuvers around commercial traffic. In exercises, they demonstrated they could deploy sufficient boats to disrupt the entire strait in under 30 minutes. What they'd never practiced against was full U.S. Navy response, because the U.S. Navy doesn't participate in Iranian exercises, and the capabilities American forces would employ weren't the kind Iran could easily simulate. The initial deployment at 5:20 a.m., 2 minutes after initial detection, Iranian fast attack boats reached the main shipping channel, 24 boats in the first wave, splitting into groups of 4, each group targeting a different section of the strait. Positioning themselves between commercial tankers, one group accelerated directly toward a Kuwaiti oil tanker, racing across the bow at close range. Aggressive maneuver designed to force the tanker to alter course or stop. Another group positioned themselves directly in a channel where a Singapore-flagged LNG carrier needed to transit, blocking passage, no communication, no acknowledgement of radio calls. A third group began circling a Japanese container ship, high-speed orbits, weapons visible on deck, clear intimidation tactics. From USS Porter's Bridge, Commander Stevens watched the tactical display update in real time, Iranian boats spreading across the shipping lanes. Commercial traffic beginning to slow, some vessels altering course to avoid the aggressive maneuvering. CIC Bridge. What's commercial reaction? Multiple vessels slowing, Commander. The Kuwaiti tanker has stopped engines, 2 others requesting guidance on whether to proceed. This was the Iranian objective playing out. Not sinking ships, stopping them. Creating enough uncertainty that commercial traffic halted. Commander Stevens made his decision instantly. Execute Operation Open Passage, full authorization, rules of engagement, clear the strait by all necessary means short of lethal force, launch aircraft, deploy intercept teams, electronic warfare active. What he just authorized was a comprehensive operation to physically remove Iranian boats from the shipping lanes, not ask them to leave, remove them. I, Commander, Open Passage executing. Throughout the task group, multiple systems activated simultaneously. At 5:21 a.m., the first response phase began. Phase 1. Air dominance from USS Porter's helicopter hangar. 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters launched within 90 seconds of the execute order. These weren't transport helicopters. They were armed, equipped with M240 machine guns, Hellfire missiles, advanced sensors, and crews trained specifically for small boat interdiction. At 5:22 a.m., both Seahawks reached Iranian boat positions at low altitude, flying 50 feet above the water. Clearly visible, clearly armed, message unmistakable. The lead helicopter positioned itself directly in front of an Iranian boat group that was blocking a tanker's path. Through loudspeakers, the helicopter crew transmitted in English and Farsi. Iranian vessels, you are operating unsafely in international shipping lanes. Clear the area immediately or face defensive action. The Iranian boats ignored the warning, maintained position, weapon systems visibly manned. The Seahawk descended to 30 feet, rotor wash creating massive waves around the Iranian boats, water spray drenching crews, boats rocking violently. Still, the Iranians maintained position. At 5:24 a.m., the helicopter fired warning shots. M240 machine gun, rounds hitting the water 50 meters ahead of the lead Iranian boat. Clear demonstration of capability and intent. The Iranian boat finally altered course, moving away from the tanker's path, but not leaving the shipping lane, just repositioning to different location. This pattern repeated across the strait, Seahawks confronting Iranian boats, warning broadcasts, rotor wash, warning shots, Iranian boats repositioning but not withdrawing. The helicopters were buying time, disrupting Iranian coordination, but not solving the fundamental problem, because more Iranian boats kept coming. At 5:25 a.m., the second wave of Iranian fast attack craft emerged from coastal waters, 24 more boats, replacing those that had been forced to reposition, reinforcing the blockade attempt. Commander Stevens received the report. 48 Iranian boats now in the shipping lanes, helicopters successfully disrupting but not eliminating the threat. Time for Phase 2. Phase 2, surface interdiction. At 5:26 a.m., from all 3 American destroyers, fast response boats launched. These were RHIBs, rigid hull inflatable boats, each carrying 6-man security teams, armed with automatic weapons, trained for maritime interdiction operations. Within minutes, 12 American fast boats were operating throughout the strait, not engaging Iranian craft directly, but positioning between Iranian boats and commercial vessels, creating a physical barrier, American presence protecting the shipping lanes. At 5:28 a.m., an Iranian fast attack craft tried to maneuver around an American RHIB to reach a Saudi tanker. The RHIB immediately moved to block. High-speed maneuvering, aggressive but controlled. The Iranian boat backed off, didn't want direct confrontation with American forces. This became the pattern. Iranian boats trying to access commercial vessels, American RHIBs blocking their approach, standoff developing. But the fundamental problem remained. Too many Iranian boats. Not enough American interdiction craft. The numbers still favored Iran. At 5:29 a.m., Commander Stevens authorized Phase 3. Phase 3, electronic warfare. What happened next, most observers wouldn't even notice. No visible weapons, no dramatic maneuvers, just invisible electromagnetic warfare. From USS Porter and USS Nitsa, ANSLQ-32 electronic warfare systems activated in offensive mode. These systems can do more than defend against incoming missiles. They can attack enemy communications and navigation systems at distance. At 5:30 a.m., powerful jamming signals began radiating across the strait. targeting the frequency bands Iranian Revolutionary Guard naval forces used for tactical communications. Suddenly, Iranian boat commanders lost contact with their headquarters. Coordination broke down, units operating independently without central guidance. Some Iranian boats tried switching to backup frequencies. The jamming followed automatically, American systems identifying new frequencies and targeting them within seconds. Iranian boats also relied on GPS for navigation in the complex, traffic-heavy environment of the strait. U.S. electronic warfare systems began transmitting GPS spoofing signals, false positioning data that would make Iranian navigation systems show incorrect locations. Not enough to cause immediate chaos, but enough to degrade their operational effectiveness. Make coordination difficult. Create confusion. By 5:32 a.m., Iranian tactical cohesion was degrading rapidly. Boats that had been operating in coordinated groups were now acting independently, some maintaining aggressive postures, others withdrawing when confronted. No unified response. The Iranian command center in Bandar Abbas tried desperately to regain control, sending orders through multiple communication channels, most blocked by American jamming. Some getting through but with significant delays. From their perspective, the operation was fragmenting. They deployed 48 boats to close the strait, but those boats were now scattered, uncoordinated, and increasingly ineffective. At 5:34 a.m., Iranian commanders made a critical error. They deployed their third wave, 12 additional boats, bringing total deployed forces to 60 boats. They believed more numbers would overwhelm American response. Instead, they gave Commander Stevens justification for Phase 4. Phase 4, overwhelming force. At 5:35 a.m., Commander Stevens transmitted request to 5th Fleet Command. Request additional aviation assets for strait clearance operation. Iranian forces have escalated deployment to 60 boats. Require additional capability to clear shipping lanes. The response came back in under 60 seconds. Porter Actual, you are cleared for full aviation response. 4 FA-18s launching from Abraham Lincoln now. ETA, your position 12 minutes. Additional Navy and USAF assets on standby. At 5:36 a.m., 4 FA-18 Super Hornets launched from USS Abraham Lincoln, operating 70 miles away in the Gulf of Oman. These weren't just for show. Each aircraft carried a full combat load, air-to-surface missiles, precision-guided bombs, and authorization to use them if Iranian forces didn't comply with orders to clear the strait. At 5:37 a.m., while the fighters were in transit, 2 additional assets joined the operation. An E-2D Hawkeye airborne early warning aircraft established orbit over the strait, its powerful radar system providing complete air and surface picture of the entire area. Nothing could move without being tracked. A P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft arrived on station, equipped with advanced sensors, weapons, and communication systems designed specifically for littoral warfare. The American presence was building rapidly. Helicopters, fast boats, electronic warfare, and now fixed-wing aircraft with serious combat capability. At 5:48 a.m., the FA-18s reached the strait, flying at 3,000 feet, clearly visible, clearly armed, conducting low passes over Iranian boat positions. The psychological impact was immediate. Iranian boat crews could see the fighters overhead, could hear the engine roar, could understand that if those aircraft released weapons, the boats wouldn't survive. At 5:49 a.m., USS Porter transmitted final warning through all available channels. Iranian naval forces, this is U.S. Navy warship. You are operating unsafely in international shipping lanes. You have 5 minutes to clear the area and return to Iranian territorial waters. If you do not comply, we will use all necessary force to remove you. This is your final warning. The message transmitted in English and Farsi. On maritime frequencies, through satellite links, even broadcast from the helicopters via loudspeaker. Everyone heard it. Iranian boat crews, commercial vessels, watching forces on both sides. 5 minutes to decide. Iranian forces had options: comply and withdraw, avoiding escalation, maintain position and risk American use of force, or escalate themselves with attacks on American vessels, which would guarantee overwhelming response. From Bandar Abbas, Iranian commanders faced impossible decision. They deployed 60 boats to close the strait, demonstrated capability to disrupt shipping, made their point. But continuing meant confrontation with significantly superior American forces. Backing down meant humiliation. Admitting failure. For 4 minutes, Iranian boats maintained positions, not advancing, not withdrawing, frozen in indecision. At 5:53 a.m., 1 minute before the deadline, Iranian command made their choice. The withdrawal at 5:53 a.m., encrypted communications transmitted from Bandar Abbas to Iranian naval forces in the strait. All units, mission complete. Return to base, orderly withdrawal. Maintain defensive posture but disengage from commercial traffic. The Iranian boats began turning away. Not rapidly, not in panicked flight, but deliberate, face-saving withdrawal. Groups of boats that had been blocking shipping lanes altered course, heading back toward Iranian territorial waters. Weapon systems still manned, still showing readiness, but clearly disengaging. From USS Porter's Bridge, Commander Stevens watched the tactical display update. Red icons moving away from the shipping lanes, heading northeast toward Iranian coast. CIC, Bridge, confirm Iranian withdrawal. Are all hostile units clearing the lanes? Affirmative, Commander. All Iranian craft altering course away from commercial traffic. Withdrawal appears coordinated. By 5:56 a.m., the last Iranian fast attack boat had cleared the main shipping channel. By 5:58 a.m., all Iranian boats had returned to Iranian territorial waters. The entire Iranian force, 60 boats that had attempted to close the strait, had withdrawn. At 5:47 a.m., 29 minutes after the initial deployment, the Strait of Hormuz was clear. The commercial response at 6 a.m., USS Porter transmitted to all commercial vessels in the area. All ships, this is U.S. Navy warship. Iranian naval forces have cleared the area. Shipping lanes are open and safe for navigation. Resume normal transit operations. The Kuwaiti tanker that had stopped engines at 5:20 a.m. restarted and continued its transit. The vessels that had slowed resumed normal speed. Ships that had been waiting for guidance proceeded through the strait. Within 30 minutes, commercial traffic was flowing normally, as if the Iranian operation had never occurred. For the merchant captains, the incident reinforced what they already knew. American naval forces maintained freedom of navigation in the strait, would respond immediately to threats, would clear obstacles regardless of source. That guarantee was worth more than any insurance policy. Throughout the global shipping industry, the message spread quickly. Iran had attempted to close the Strait of Hormuz, failed completely within 30 minutes. Shipping continued without interruption. Insurance rates for Persian Gulf transits didn't increase. Shipping schedules didn't change. The world's energy markets barely noticed. Because the strait had never actually closed, Iran's attempt had been defeated before it could succeed. The strategic failure for Iranian Revolutionary Guard leadership, the operation was catastrophic failure. They'd deployed 60 fast attack boats, coordinated operation, aggressive tactics. Everything their doctrine suggested would successfully disrupt shipping, and the entire force had been compelled to withdraw within 30 minutes, without achieving any meaningful disruption. The international community saw what happened. Iran deployed significant forces to close the strait. United States responded with overwhelming capability. Iran withdrew. Not a stalemate, not a negotiated settlement. Clear defeat. What made it worse was that the United States hadn't used lethal force, hadn't sunk any Iranian boats, hadn't even damaged them. The withdrawal happened because Iranian commanders understood that if they persisted, American forces would escalate, and that escalation would result in comprehensive defeat. The Iranian boats were outmatched by American helicopters. American helicopters were backed by fighter aircraft. Fighter aircraft were supported by destroyers with advanced weapons systems. And behind all of that, carrier strike groups and Air Force bombers ready to engage if needed. The hierarchy of escalation favored America so completely that Iran couldn't risk testing it. For regional observers, the lesson was clear. Iranian threats to close the strait were empty. When tested, Iran lacked capability to follow through. American naval presence guaranteed freedom of navigation. UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, all saw confirmation that their energy exports would flow regardless of Iranian actions. That American security commitments were backed by real capability. Global energy markets saw proof that the Strait of Hormuz would remain open, that Iranian leverage over global oil supply was illusory, that continued investment in Persian Gulf petroleum was secure. The technical advantage operation. Open Passage demonstrated several technical capabilities that fundamentally tilted the engagement. First, surveillance. American forces had complete situational awareness. E-2D Hawkeye aircraft providing air picture, P-8 Poseidon covering surface contacts, ship-based radars tracking everything, satellite coverage from space. Iranian forces operated with limited visibility, could see their immediate surroundings but lacked comprehensive understanding of all forces in the area. Second, communications. American forces maintained secure, jam-resistant communications throughout the operation. Coordination between ships, aircraft, and headquarters seamless. Iranian forces experienced communications disruption. Jamming degraded their ability to coordinate, units operating independently rather than as unified force. Third, escalation dominance. American forces could draw on massive reinforcement capability. Fighter aircraft from carriers, bombers from land bases, additional ships from throughout the fleet. Iranian forces had limited reinforcement options. The 60 boats they deployed represented significant portion of their available fast attack capability. They couldn't sustainably match American escalation. Fourth, precision capability. American weapons systems could engage individual boats with precision if necessary, minimize collateral damage, strike exactly what needed to be struck. Iranian weapons were designed for area attacks, anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, machine guns, less precise, more likely to cause unintended damage. These technical advantages meant that in any escalation scenario, American forces would win. Iranian commanders understood this, made the rational decision to withdraw rather than test it. The aftermath. At 6:15 a.m., with Iranian forces withdrawn and shipping lanes clear, Commander Stevens authorized stand-down from general quarters. USS Porter and her escort ships returned to normal readiness posture. Helicopters recovered to ships, fast boats retrieved, aircraft returned to carrier. The task group continued its transit through the strait. Same course, same speed, mission unchanged. At 7 a.m., Commander Stevens transmitted after-action report to 5th Fleet.